And welcome to Chu Stream, where we talk about art and life as an artist. I'm your host, Bobby Chu, and we also have on here my co-host, Masay Seki and Wouter Tulp. Today's challenge is number 25 in the 90-minute art challenge. This is going to be a tough one. Holy smokes. And this is also done by the incredible, the amazing Jingna, the photographer. I've known her for a while, just on and off from various events. She does amazing, beautiful photos, and she's given us permission to use one of her photos. She does a lot of cover or editorial photography, fashion photography, that kind of thing. Beautiful work. Anyways, let's get started, okay? So that is the subject. And I will be painting on the very left-hand side. Masay, I believe you're going to be painting in the middle, and then Wouter is going to be painting on the right-hand side. Now, what is this? How do you participate? So why don't we go to how do you participate, okay? Here we go. So you could go to Tumblr, tumblr.com, look up 90 Min Art Challenge, and then you'll find our page here with all the various challenges that we have. This is the next challenge. Mr. David Attenborough, that's going to be very fun and difficult, and it has all the different challenges there. Then what you want to do is, once you're finished your 90-minute art challenge, upload it to Instagram, because we show our favorites every stream. So let's just go through a few favorites right now. This is from last week. Some really lovely stuff. It was a landscape last week.
Nice.
It's various versions. Vectorized. That's what I tried to do. Something a bit more
I like that one.
clean looking, a little bit more vectorized looking.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, CJ Ellison, she's going to be joining us in one of the future streams coming up.
Oh.
Right? That one was awesome. I thought that one was awesome. They're all really neat, and especially neat to just see the different versions. Now, this is from
absolutely.
This is from a previous one. This is from challenge number 13. This was an extremely tough challenge, especially with these very interesting grays that start to look purple and things like that. Loved that challenge. And this one, so sad.
Oh, cool.
Isn't that it?
Lost her balloon. And then this one's from today. This one, yeah, difficult. Very, very difficult.
Oh, nice.
Nice. People
Right.
are already on it.
Just two more. This one, you remember this one, Wouter? This is from
Yeah.
your course. This is
Yeah,
from
I can tell.
Wouter's digital painting
great.
workout. And then we have this one right here. Fun. Really fun.
These are awesome.
All right, so don't worry, we haven't missed a thing. We just darkened our canvases. And what's the other thing I want to mention? I want to mention Discord. So you can see on the bottom of the screen, it says Discord, a nice bright pink. You could go and join us on Discord. Pretty much, man, it's been like almost every day now I see people on Discord. And a bunch of times I join in as well. You can see that people will hang out in the Discord chat, and then they'll start doing their own studies, which is super, super neat. And you get to paint and draw with each other. Everybody's using Magma, which allows, you can see like 6 different people all drawing together. Really, really fun. And really, really motivating. You do your workout, and then you're done. All right, we'll check back in with them in a little bit later. But perhaps now would be a good time for us to hop into Discord and join them in the chat. Is that cool?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we will mute our Zoom. We'll keep it on, but we'll mute our Zoom, and then we'll unmute in Discord.
Okay.
All right.
I'm still looking for it.
problem. You still looking for it, Wouter? Is Wouter on here now? Okay. So Wouter just needs to unmute himself. Oh shoot. Voice activity. Yeah, so can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you, Bobby.
Okay, great. Cool. All right, well, hopefully everybody else can join back in. Wouter, maybe we could send him a message just letting him know that his stuff is muted. Oh, he
I
was
sent
there.
him a picture. Hopefully it helps.
Okay, he was just there. All right, well, why don't we take a moment here and talk about this this challenge. Miss A, maybe you could also type to him in Zoom chat.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, this challenge for me, I'll tell you what, I totally remember what was going on here. If you remember, Wouter started his painting here with a soft edge brush, right? It was totally soft edge, and I was like, that's weird. I wouldn't do that, but I trust in Wouter, and I'm always here to learn. So I tried to do a soft edge brush, which did not work for me, everybody. I don't know about you guys, but if you saw the last stream that I did, or that Masay and I did, we did it with Shwen, I struggled big time. I struggled so much. I started and then stopped and started all over, and I encourage people to take chances as well. Go for it. Like part of that struggle, really, we wanted to keep that in. We didn't want to edit these things out. We want to show people what even professionals go through. We still go through struggles, and it's not about getting over our struggles. It's about getting used to and embracing our struggles, becoming friends with our frustrations, because that's what's really gonna push that gear of evolution into hyperdrive. Now, Wouter, you're one to constantly kind of get into a new thing and kind of get obsessed about like oil paints, all of a sudden, or story. Can you talk about?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I don't know if I really can control that. It kind of takes over, and I just have these periods of time where only one thing seems important to me, and I just feel like I need to understand lighting better, and all I do is paint light, or then it's like you said, story, and I'll just start writing things, and it's really something that seems to happen to me. And I feel like, well, I might as well take advantage of it and spend as much time doing it while I feel that the urge to do so, because it leaves me after a while, and then it's replaced for something else, and then after a while it comes back. And I think it's the result of just being curious, and when I do things, then I learn stuff, but it opens the doors to new things that I didn't know about, and then I want to discover that. So I think it's a natural flow of curiosity.
Well, it's always amazing to see. And the other thing about this is like you're constantly giving yourself big challenges. And this one is a big one. I want to see what the Bunny Wizard thinks about our challenge today, because I think I feel pretty good about this one. This one's tough.
Multiple elements, shiny things, drapery, flesh and hair. This would be a difficult assignment if she wasn't mostly in the dark. I give your challenge A 6.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't know. I don't believe. I don't. Like having so much of the subject in the dark actually made it harder. Didn't you think?
Um, why did you think it was harder when so much of the subject was in the dark?
Because it's going from such a light tone, same subject, same object, going into like pretty much blackness. And that's always kind of difficult to sell, right?
Hmm.
That's always kind of difficult to make it feel, wow, that feels real. It doesn't feel like a weird statue or something. And the other part to it is all that stuff that's happening in the clothes. And that became
Yes.
a little difficult.
Yeah, it's, you have elements where light hits the surface, and because of that, you see it come out more. But also, this has a pattern on it, while some parts of that shoulder, they're just as dark as the background. And still, you have to show that it has that volume and is not the same as the background. So I think that was a challenge, I think.
Now, when I came back to the screen, the video went back to back to the very beginning, so I just fast forwarded a little bit back to where we were. This was really interesting, and I actually want to kind of talk about this stage in your painting, right, Masay? Like Wouter, he's
Yeah.
doing like some Picasso stuff, and we know it turns out well because it's Wouter. But can you kind of talk us through that?
Well, uh, that thing you just said, that's not completely right. It doesn't always turn out right. Uh, but it's interesting you mentioned that it looks like Picasso. I think you referred to the fact that it's kind of abstract, right?
Right, right.
Um, and to me, it doesn't feel that that weird actually, because what I'm looking for is uh, basically the shapes, and at the same time the contrast within these shapes. So where a form falls off. So for example, that side of the head, you can see it go. It curls off and then it goes into black. The Her right eye, at the top right of that, you have that black shape indicating that hollow shape where we see the shadow. And so the light and shadow, they form patterns that create certain shapes. That's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at this is the eye, this is the nose, this is the mouth. I'm really looking at the contrasts and the shape that the light and shadow creates. And then if you look at it like that, it's not as abstract as or not as Picasso-esque maybe as you think, because I think Picasso would put the eye on the forehead and the ear in the place of the nose, and that's not what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I'm just joking. But when I
I get
was
it.
watching you do those first marks where it is soft edge, I tried to join you and I was sketching for a bit. And as you can see, I literally erased everything and started all over. And now I'm looking at Masay's. I remember this. I was looking at Masay's, I was looking at Wouter's. I was very confused as to like what I should do.
Hmm.
Yeah, we both took complete different approaches to it, which was
Yes.
interesting because no, Wouter, do you normally work like that where you put like the very like contrasted values, or is it like specifically for this subject this made more sense?
No, I don't have a way of doing things. That's uh, what I like, but at the same time, it feels like I'm inventing the wheel every time I do a painting.
Mm,
Sometimes I feel, why don't I just do things a certain way? But that would also take away the fun, I think.
I
But
see.
here we agreed to start on a dark background, so that informed much of the approach, and I just felt I need to put in a light area uh, at the very beginning, but not the brightest value, but at
Mhm.
least to have some kind of mid value that I can work on in those areas that I know already are brighter than the background. Um,
But you didn't
What's
choose
interesting,
you didn't choose black. Can we just talk about that? Like you didn't choose black for your background, which usually like beginners or even college students, they would probably just go straight to black a lot of times.
yeah. Well, if you want to literally copy the reference, that also might maybe make sense. I wasn't trying to do that, and I was looking for how can I um, also in the process give myself some extra room. So if I eventually feel like I need to darken certain areas, I still can do that because my darkest value at this point isn't black. So I can still go darker if that's necessary. And if it's not necessary, then what I find is if you lighten that, the whole feeling of the painting can become a little warmer, a little more friendly, maybe. So that's the reason I didn't go for complete black.
Now that we've done this one time and you can remember pretty much what you did and your thoughts and stuff like that, while it's still fresh in our heads, what would each one of you do differently if you're to do it again?
A good question. Well, I found I was for a most part struggling with Magma, just with how the tools work, how to create these transitions, how to find the right opacity and stuff like that. So um, that might be something to practice some more, to have more control over the tools. That was the main struggle for me in this painting.
I thought you killed it. I thought you did so amazing. For me, I think I remember at the end of the painting, I realized how warm my skin tone was. So I think if I were to do this again, I would probably establish more of like the cooler colors, like a cool flesh tone, so that especially like right now, I mean, for the reference photo, because her eyes and her lips are red, and because those are kind of like the points where it like really stands out. I'd probably do that and then add like warmer hues to the painting.
I think if
It
I
is
was,
interesting.
oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna mention like my crappy drawing there. If I was to start this over again, I wouldn't have started with the black background first. I would have just drew my subject, start painting it a bit, and then bring in the black background, because I found that drawing with a lighter line just really messed me up. I couldn't get around it, you
Well,
know?
that's interesting because that may be a difference where I didn't start with a line drawing at all.
Yeah.
I start with these color, blobs of color,
I was trying
and
that. It wasn't working for me.
carved in the shadows on top of that. So no, but I'm just saying, because I can understand if you're working from a line drawing and the line itself is brighter than the background, that's hard to do because the line starts to look as if that is a part of a lit surface of your object, and that's really the opposite of how it usually looks. A line really is darker than the background. So
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough for me.
and
Probably
then
would
another
change that.
thing, by the way, I would do differently probably was I felt in the end I focused on details, which you want to do. But if you, for example, think of the portraits Nathan Fawkes do, he has this way of having just this big, broad brushstroke, indicating, for example, you can see that brighter blue, like a ribbon at the front of her body. I can almost imagine him doing this broad brushstroke and leave it like that. And I think I would have chosen to have a bigger contrast of those broad brushstrokes and parts where I really go in with fine details, so that you I tried to do that and also have the light fall off. So we have the face as the strongest light, and then have the light fall off as we go down on the body. But still, I think I would have increased that effect to really put a stronger focus on where I want the viewer to look.
You know, yeah, the other thing is, come to think of it, if I didn't do the line drawing, I could see myself getting away with it if I did what you did, which is put in, some nice shapes, some nice color shapes, and then you start carving into it. In the
Yes.
beginning, now I remember when I was putting in those shapes, pretty much trying to do what you were doing, but in a different order. I was just trying to draw in the exact shape, and that's what wasn't working for me.
Ah, okay.
I should have just went in loose and then carved into it to make it more exact.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, I think it's interesting to see, 3 different approaches on a dark background, and still, I think because you can look at books, how to start a painting, and there are endless ways you can start a painting. I think in the end, it doesn't really, even your painting, it came together eventually, and it's just.
Thanks,
I
Robert.
think it's really well. I think it's really
No, it's
important
true,
that
it's true.
you put something down on the canvas that
Yeah.
you can react to. If you see that it's wrong, you can fix it. So especially working digitally, you can always change everything. You're not stuck to the pigment that has already attached to the canvas, and you can't change it anymore. Or like watercolor, you
Yeah.
can only do several layers on top of each other before it turns muddy or something. So I think that's, for me, that is always reassuring to know that you can start a painting in any way, actually, as long as you keep looking and adjusting when you see that it's wrong or not what you want it to be.
I gotta say, your face there, holy smokes, you are like really killing it right now. Yeah, and then for me, after really thinking about the subject a little bit, what I wanted to do was kind of use green for her skin tone and try to get away with it. And that was like kind of like my main learning objective for the exercise. And once I started to think about it, once I started to get into this version of it, did you guys have anything that you wanted to really concentrate on for this subject?
Let's say, what did you think of?
I guess when I saw this photo, I remember thinking like, I really wanted to get the value, like nail the value. I don't know if I was successful, but it was definitely a learning experience because I think I started from dark and started building up to the lighter value instead of like that's why I really like the way you approached it, Water, where you kind of like had the mid darks and mid lights and then kind of worked from there and then inwards, and then you can like add the very darks and the lights. So I think that was my main objective rather than nailing the color. It was more like where in the subject is the brightest in value.
Yeah. Cool.
And
Yeah,
other-
I thought
Oh.
the skin tone was really fascinating here, because if you look at the chin, for example, and the shadows around there, they almost go towards green, while in the cheeks or around the eyes we have really a warmer red color. And so that is really interesting. I think that always makes a painting really appealing if you have warm and cool colors, going back and forth. But at the same time, it makes it really hard, because what is the skin tone here, or the skin color here? And so that's what I wanted to try. And not everything is completely thought out from the very beginning. It's really when I started, and I started with that soft brush, I basically stuck to that really soft brush, because you create some kind of visual language within an image. It would be completely different if I suddenly used a rough brush. And of course you can do that, especially on top of this. I could have done so, for example, with the the flowers in, or what would you call that? The brooches in her hair. I can imagine, they have really sharp edges, so you could use a different brush for that. But overall, when I started with that brush, I thought I'd just stick with that to keep the unity in the whole painting.
Hey, I just saw the one and only Eric Canetti is in the audience. Hey, Eric, big shout out to Eric.
Hi there.
Would love to invite Eric to do a drawing, 90-minute maybe drawing challenge with us, right?
Nudge
Where we
me.
do some badass drawings and learn from Eric Canetti and try to do some drawings. I don't know if he's up for it, but maybe a little encouragement from the audience would be great.
I think, sorry, just to go back, I do remember another focus, another thing that I was focusing on was not kind of like, so the hair, for example, I didn't add that much detail except for the slight highlights in the hair. So I didn't like add darker values to the hair to like separate the background and the subject. So that was kind of like the fun part for me, where I was just focusing on adding light, which is what I kind of took from one of your artist workout, Wouter.
Right.
Where like you start from the dark and then you add the light onto the subject.
Yes.
That was like exercise number 20 or something, right? In Wouter's digital painting workout. That is why we chose the subject, and that was one of the objectives that I wanted to do as well. I think that's what you're talking about, Masay. Like, you're not drawing out the entire clothes, perhaps, or the hair, right? You're just adding in those parts so that in the end it feels like there's hair in that darkness, but you didn't actually paint it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't even see it in the photo, actually. You can only see the highlights.
Which I thought was really cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
Bunny Wizard thought it was just a cheap shortcut to finishing the painting faster. I respect him and all, but I don't know sometimes. I also want to mention questions. We do have questions coming in from Slido and as well Discord. We'll go to a Slido question first, and then we'll kind of open it up to people in Discord to join us in the chat. All right, so this is a question from Anonymous. We had a discussion. What is a sketch? When is a sketch, and when is it something more? Yes.
That's interesting. I recently saw a painting, and it said it was really a finished painting. You could see this was a painting that the artist had spent hours and hours on, and it said rough sketch. And I was looking at it with my son, and he said, well, that's not a sketch. And I have done this in the past, and for me that was insecurity, because if I say it's just a sketch, I can always, if people have comments on it, I can always say, well, it's just a sketch. If I say this is a finished painting, I'm accountable. I agreed that this is the thing I'm showing to you. So for me, that's what it was. Also, I think, a sketch can be a finished painting as well. There is no real actual division, but that was for me just a thing where I felt, okay, I need to be honest with myself. If this is a painting, I'm not gonna say it's a sketch anymore.
Yeah, you could definitely. I've felt it. I call it the Wouter depression. You look at Wouter's stuff, and then you're just like, that's a sketch? What? And then you crawl under your bed, and you just don't want to get out of bed.
Well, another reason for me not to do that anymore, because I don't want you to feel like that.
No, but that is such a good question, isn't it? Because like some paintings, they look so brilliant from far away, and you go up close, it's still brilliant, but you can see it actually feels so much like a sketch up
Mhm.
close. It's just everywhere. It's gestural. Every brushstroke is just loose and gestural.
Yeah, and then is it still a sketch? Maybe you could think of it more as if it's a study, then it's a sketch, and if it's if it's the final product, it's no longer a sketch. That could also
Yes.
be a definition.
That's a
Yeah.
great definition. Yeah, if you do not if you're not going to do this for something else, right? Some more finished thing. Yeah, so everybody out there, like, no more of that concept art. This is concept art. This is, because it's not. It's your finished stuff. And you're not going to do a finished thing afterwards.
No, and it doesn't it doesn't make a work better or lesser, because I look at sketches sometimes and I love them better than the final painting. So that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you know
that's a sad thing sometimes too. When you're, your initial sketch is so darn good, you really like it, but you just can't get it to final.
Yeah. And sometimes it's nice to like leave your sketches as sketches because there's that charm to it, and it gets the message across. And there's a certain feeling that you want that's very different from like a fully illustrated or like painted, character or
Peter
environment.
DeSev, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sketchy and it's just so just
Yeah.
beautiful. Everything about it, it's masterful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
just
think
like want to leave it like that.
yeah, I think in a sketch you are often searching and you're using your pencil or your brush to find what it is you want to express. And if you use that sketch to create a final painting, it's exactly what you make the sketch for. So you know exactly where you want to go or what the colors are going to be, what the values are going to be. But when you do the painting, you already know that. So, I think uh, that searching is visible in the kind of lines that you create. And if you just would trace those lines, they don't have the same energy of someone finding out what that line is supposed to be. And so I always try to leave some exploration in doing a final piece, so I can still, I needed to still be able to go wrong, because if I know everything in advance, you will see it feels like tracing a photograph. There's no energy in it, because I know everything is going to be in the right place. And you just need to jump and see what happens. Sometimes that's more exciting, and I feel that's visible in what I create.
Absolutely. And actually, I would love to focus on that a little bit, because if you look at each one of our paintings, I don't think any of us are trying to copy this photo exactly. We're not going for proportions. Each one of our spaces are the exact same equal space of the subject, yet we are not trying to measure it and trying to make the heads exact and things like that. This is a 90-minute exercise for certain purposes, right? Like it encourages you to think on your own. It encourages you to create your own rendition of whatever the subject is. And yeah, we have a whole bunch of people in Discord today. Holy smokes, so many people sketching. It's pretty insane. I don't know if anybody wants to join in on the whole what's a sketch, what's considered finished.
You know what's
I
funny?
wanna join in.
Oh, hi.
Oh, sorry. I was just
No,
gonna say that. Okay, you go ahead.
no, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I have that problem of, I like the sketch more than the finished work. And in the last few days, when I'm studying with all you wonderful people, I'm trying to think like, I want to make my finished art look like my best sketch, so it doesn't die in the process.
Yeah. Don't
If
we
that
all?
makes sense.
Don't we all?
Yeah. I think that comes with like practicing, like that whole like after the sketch, that finish like painting part is like what you kind of have to like learn to like incorporate the sketch into the final to make it have that same feeling. I feel like I had that same issue too, because when I first started painting because before working at the studio, I would just draw. I would not paint. I refused to like put color and like use digital because I just hated the look of that. Like, it just looks very different from what I imagined from my sketch. But I think once you learn like how to, like, maybe it's the edges, maybe it's the how crisp certain parts are. So maybe once you learn how to work around that, you'll be able to like kind of get that same exact feeling from your initial sketch. So
Yeah, that's a good point. And another thing I think is when you do a sketch, you know that, especially when it's for a client, for example, you know that sketch isn't going to be the final piece. So if there are lines in there that are not supposed to be there, or colors that are off, doesn't really matter because it's just a sketch. And I think that not caring is an important part of it. And when we have to do the final painting, this has to be great. It's like, buying the most expensive canvas and then start to do a painting, or when you're on the phone doodling on a piece of paper. It's that carelessness that makes that there's a lot of fun in there. So I think it's important to try and find a way for you to not care so much. Now that's really contradictory to creating something that you have to deliver to a client where you want this to be great. But I think that's the challenge, to find a way to relax. And because when you're tense, when it has to be perfect, then you don't allow yourself to make mistakes. And often in those mistakes, great things happen. In a sketch, you often have a lot of lines that are not supposed to be there, but they have a certain charm to it. And when we do the final painting, we often don't allow ourselves to leave in those lines anymore.
Hey, I got a really good question from the audience here. This from Renato. Especially with digital painting, is it possible to work while being colorblind? Right? I think that one's very interesting because you have different kinds of color wheels, color sliders that can help you to determine where you are. Is this yellow? Is this green? Is this whatever? You can start to get familiar with those different sliders to be able to help you, perhaps. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, when you're colorblind, I think most people who are colorblind have difficulty distinguishing red from green, for example, right? It's not seeing black and white.
Right,
so
usually, yeah.
Yeah, so I think I actually have a friend who is an illustrator, and he is colorblind, and he does exactly what you say. He checked first, and he knows, which color is which when he mixes it on his palette. So he keeps those colors separate, so he knows he's not mixing the colors he can't separate from one another. And sometimes you see it even in his paintings. There's this one brush strokes that is, in a green foliage of a tree, suddenly there's a red brush strokes, but it doesn't even matter that much. But in general, he seems to be dealing with it quite okay.
Wow,
I
that's
have
really
a
cool.
friend who's also colorblind, and he thought that by being freaking good in values. Because if he can make anything in grayscale, it's all a question of playing with color later, and it will all be clear.
It makes sense. You can get away with a lot of things if you get the values right.
Craig Mullins, he was like, I think he was trolling me though. I was like, what's the secret to color, Craig? What's the secret? And he was like, that's just extra. That's just extra stuff on the top. I was like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, it's all about drawing. I was like, but you paint. No, it's all about drawing. Love talking to that guy.
Well, he has this exercise in his course, right, where he makes you use all the colors. Actually, it's in my workout as well, the painting you just showed, where you can use any color if you use the right value, and
Yeah.
and the painting still will hold up.
Well, in this case, I'm using green for the skin color, right? And in the end, it will still hold up. I promise. I'll get back there. I just needed to catch up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think you could use any color if it's the right value, but then if you want to achieve the effect of a certain color of light, then you have to make sure that the way light is reflected on the surface is consistent throughout the image. Otherwise, then in terms of values, it will still hold up, but you won't communicate what kind of color the light has or things like that. So,
Or
uh,
consistent in its inconsistencies, if you want to do
oh
something
yeah,
like
of course.
Wouter's exercise. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm saying that it's important, but that's not the only thing. You have all these different elements in a painting that you can choose whether you want to use them or not.
The other thing I really liked about this exercise was that there was no turning back, right? Like, it wasn't working for me the first couple times, but there's no turning back. I have Masay on there, I have Wouter on there. We're recording, we're doing this exercise together. We're gonna keep going. It would be weird if I got off the board and I stopped trying. And that was such a nice, wonderful kind of thing to experience again, because usually if I'm just paying for myself, I just scrap it and maybe I'll choose a different subject or whatever. But this exercise not only helps me kind of learn and practice painting and different aspects of painting, but it helps me with being okay when things aren't going well.
Wow, that's actually a great lesson. And even, you can think of that even outside of this specific challenge. When you create your own project, for example, it's if you don't have to do it, it's easy to, it's not working, I quit, I'm going to do something else. But if you just stick to it and keep trying, because if it were for a client, you couldn't stop trying. So if you do that for your own, it can be a personal project or your own studies, if you just give yourself a certain amount of time to do a study every day, you could wake up and think, well, not today. But if you just commit and keep trying, it eventually you will try let's say you're doing this exercise and it's not working, and the next day it's not working, day after day. But then at a certain point you will start trying other things. You won't keep doing the same thing, and by trying different things, suddenly you will learn something new, because that is not the thing you usually do. And I think committing to something is really powerful and really helps you to develop at a certain point.
You know what's even more like, yeah, right on, 110,000% agree on that. But I also love the whole thing where it's like putting in that effort when I know I'm on a sinking ship. I know this is a failure, and I'm going to keep putting in that effort until the 90 minutes are up. I really felt like I've been learning so much quicker and evolving so much quicker because I'm going through that mud. I'm going through those horrible experiences as well as good experiences, but just going through the ones that aren't working well and still trucking through them until the very end, and have a failure. Who cares? There's been plenty of them where I wasn't into it. But the thing was, the painting was a failure, but the working through the frustration and getting better, like doing pretty much my artist workout, was extremely successful because I was pushing those weights that I wasn't ready for. But I'll be ready next time,
Yeah, and maybe that's even more important to be a success than the painting, because you left the painting and you will be the one doing another painting, and that's when you have that experience.
Well, I did this, and then a few days later I did that painting of the Queen's Gambit thing, and that went you know, in my kind of rating system for me,
That was awesome.
that went
Yeah.
well, right? And the whole entire thing with that painting, usually that would take me probably like 5-6 hours, maybe 7. That took me less than 3,
Wow.
right? And it's because I've been doing so many of these 90-minute art challenges. It's like Goku with that
So
turtle
cool.
shell on his back, training as a little child, you know, and then one day he takes it off and he jumps to the moon, and it's like, wow, I could do that now.
Yeah. Cool.
And it's also kind of like when you're sticking to this and being disciplined, you also learn like, okay, it looks horrible, but like, how can I make it better? It's like what can I work with? Trying to make the bad situation and trying to turn it into like something better, even though it's not what you imagined it to be. It's like you just have to kind of like be creative with it, and that's kind of like, you know, client work. Sometimes it's like you submit something and you're like, oh no, what did I just submit? But it's like you can't go back, so it's like it's up to you to like, you know, bring that creative side of you and like, okay, how do I make this work? You know?
Yeah, and then also, you are the one. You know exactly what you're capable of, and
Mm-hmm.
you know when you know the thing you're creating right now is in tune with what you have in mind, what you want it to be. But I don't know what's in your mind or what your abilities are. So I just see your painting and I like it. But you may see the things that didn't work out the way you wanted to do. And often we look at our own paintings like that, but we don't realize that other people don't see all those thoughts we have. They just see a painting. And if they say they like the painting, just believe them, because they have no reason, to lie about that.
Unless they're your
Yeah.
mom, you know, or like,
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I feel kind of funny about that one. I gotta be honest with you, because some people, you know, it's like they don't want to hurt your feelings and stuff like that. And so then they say nice things.
Well, yeah, well, I'm saying this because uh, I hear so many people who are putting themselves down because
Oh.
they don't like what they're creating,
Mm.
and and I think that has a lot to do with the expectations that you have of yourself. And I'm saying this because other people may look at your work and already like it, so there's no reason to be so hard on yourself. It's already a great painting, and you're just trying to make it even better instead of thinking that what you're doing is all crap.
And maybe
Does
like
it
a
make sense?
part one to that is to think about how you feel about your paintings. If you feel like you are kind of like God's gift to art, then maybe don't take that advice. Take the opposite advice. But yeah, if you're
Yeah, that's a
constantly,
great addition.
because you have those, like, you know, people show. Has anybody shown you their portfolio and the look on their face is like, get ready for awesomeness, right? And then it's not really. It maybe it's a little bit less than awesomeness, to be kind.
I've never met somebody like that.
Really?
Really. I'm like,
Wow.
is there people like that in the world? They don't second guess themselves?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, for me,
A
I
lot
could
of
tell you,
people
like,
like,
for me, I am constantly the person that goes, yeah, it's not that bad. If I drew something horrible, I'll still be like, yeah, it's not that bad. Like, I'm being kind of harsh on my study here, but at the same time, deep down inside, I was happy to go through this. I was like really happy about it, and I actually love when I'm going through a challenge like this and it actually doesn't turn out very well, because think about it. Like, I think of, actually, we should discuss this. Is this a true statement? Like, I feel like so much more of the learning is happening from the ones that didn't succeed than the ones that succeeded, right? Like, that's where you spend most of your time, is on all these failures. And then when you get to success, then you're kind of like, oh, I know how to do this now. You don't really struggle as much or
yeah.
improve.
That's true. When you're cooking and you mess something up, you never forget about it.
Especially if you had to eat it, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm
You
not
have to
making
like,
that again.
Never again am I gonna put salt before adding the cheese. No.
I know. I remember liking orange juice and liking cereal when I was a kid. And I was like, yeah, they should go
Oh my
together. And
god.
that was like the worst thing ever. Never did it again. Yes.
That is
yeah.
that is a form of unhinged that I have never heard. But go off, King.
I'm always looking
And
for
I
the
guess
shortcuts.
and it's true about the saying. It's like you shouldn't look at failure as like actual failure. It's more of like a learning experience. And not only that, I think it's like self-reflection is as important as like going through all of this. It's like I mean, sorry, acknowledging the failure, self-reflection is as equally as important because it's like there could be some people who are like, oh yeah, I failed, and that's it. They kind of just like move on. But what people should be doing is like, okay, this wasn't as successful as I thought it was going to be. Like, where are the points that didn't work for me, or what can I do better? And I think that's kind of what happened with this painting. Later, I kind of looked at it and I'm like, okay, I think next time if I were to paint this again, like I would try out Wouter's approach because it makes more sense to me now that I see it in front of me. So I think thinking about that will also like add to the whole learning experience.
Yeah, well, I also think in art, unlike some other professions or things you can do, it's really you're talking about failure, but if we don't set what the exact challenge is really clearly, how can you even tell if it's a failure? Because if the goal is to create a painting, well, we all created a painting, so we succeeded. And how do you determine when it's a failure? I think that actually that's what I tried in my workout course, to separate those elements and to focus on just one element each time, so you, for as much as possible, can see if you're actually successful in that particularly part of doing a painting. And when I'm looking at this, I might think it's a failure because I didn't get the colors right, but maybe I did get the proportions right, or maybe I did get the values right. And so I actually, in order to be able to say if it's a failure or not, I should determine what I'm trying to do actually.
Yeah, the thing I really, really love about doing the workout that you have on Schoolism is that it feels like they're almost like, it's not just a workout, it's like isolated muscles exercises, right? Like each exercise is on a specific muscle in your brain. All right, we're only doing this. This is the thing that you really need to concentrate on. Everything else, all your other things that you're good at, that you could be using as a handicap, they're out the door. You're not allowed to really use so many of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Very highly recommended. And perhaps this would be a good time to explain Schoolism. When you subscribe to Schoolism, if you subscribe to Wouter's course, you're actually also open up access to all the various courses on Schoolism, over 35 different courses. I think we're at like 39 now. And it's pretty much like Netflix. You could go through, except educational, and it will get you jobs and stuff, get you better. Healthy Netflix for artists. And then, go check it out. It's pretty awesome. The other thing I want to get back to is like, Masay, how you were just talking about constantly rethinking stuff as you're painting, even after the exercise and everything. I thought that was such a key point to really spotlight that, change and evolution happens through constant thinking and re-evaluation. And then the other thing was what Wouter was saying. I really loved so much of it because it's funny. Like we all want to get to this, well, most of us want to get to this point of kind of like happiness, comfort, and comfort and happiness are glued together. They are the same for so many people. But it's just ironic that so much of those kind of goals, the true road to comfort is usually taking a lot of challenges first, suffering first, right? Before you can actually be comfortable. Just kind of want to bring that up.
Yeah, you need to overcome the struggle to be happy about it.
I think,
and you appreciate it more too.
right? And I love that. That's such a key word too, like appreciate. If you could appreciate the struggle, right? And love that struggle, just like when you're rock climbing, Masay, like you don't need to do that. Why are you doing that? It takes so much effort. Why, like, you don't even, what's on the top of that wall? There's nothing there, Why are you spending all that time? But you love it. You love putting in that energy and suffering, because it's not suffering for you.
That's true. It's like I go all the way up just to come back down to climb back up.
Yeah. But if we can learn to love those things, how powerful is that?
Yeah, it's like going on a vacation. You put all your stuff in the car or in a plane, and you fly to your destination. You don't do that to get back home as fast as you can. You want to enjoy the vacation while you're there.
Yeah.
And you squint a little bit, life can be a vacation. We're all alive. We're on this little ball traveling super fast around a giant fireball. Like, what's going on? But we get to witness it, and we get this little slice of life, and that's pretty awesome.
It is.
Yeah. Any questions in Discord? Anybody want to bring up?
I was just gonna compliment that we are stardust as well.
Nice.
We're
What's
all made of stardust.
Yes, but do you know that if you look down, deep into like molecules and all that stuff, what are we? We're like, it's just energy charges, right? Protons, neutrons, and all this stuff. Do you know how much of that is actually solid matter? Because there's so much space in between neutrons, protons, and all those things too. It's like, if I remember correctly, it's something insane, but if I remember correctly, it's like 0.00000, and there's like over 10 zeros and then a 1 that is actual material, is actual solid freaking material.
Yeah, isn't that held together by energy as well?
Yeah, it must be. I don't know. That says you've exposed me. I'm not that smart. I just read that thing somewhere. Probably not even true. Who knows? Yeah. Well, how's everybody feeling about their painting so far at this point, Masay, Wouter?
I'm just like, don't look at Wouters. He's gonna make me feel like I want to start over.
Oh, no.
I think at this point it was like, I guess like you were saying, Wouter, like you want to have an objective, like a goal, like what do you want to focus on? And I think I was able to kind of like learn what I wanted to apply and like what can I do better for next time and stuff. So I felt okay at this point.
I felt good once I got in those facial features. A little bit more solid. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember at this point where I looked at the time and thought I need to start adding some details, because I could have kept on painting at the face, but I just felt I need to. Of course I could have gone on and keep it unfinished, but I wanted to have a more or less finished painting, at least to have all the jewelry and stuff also present. So that's I remember this point where I started to draw those things in there. And also as a learning, what I learned was really, I felt I didn't manage to actually control the brush. So I had to deal with sliding the opacity and density and back and forth, and especially with those subtle value changes in the face. So actually, I just learned a way to deal with it because I didn't have time to really learn how to do that in a way that is, for example, similar to how I would do it in Photoshop. But I did find a way to make it work, and I think that's what you do. You try to be creative and deal with what you have at that point. So for me, that was a learning experience. It's like you have to do a painting, and I'm only giving you this big broad brush and black ink. Now go ahead. You just have to work with what you have at that point, and that was part of the challenge for me here.
Well, and that's such a key thing that you just said there, because like I'm constantly kind of preaching that it's okay to learn how to do something. It's far better if you learn how to do something in like 5, 6, 7, 8 different ways, right?
Yeah.
And like you, out of all people I know, I'm sure like could totally agree to this, because you know so many different ways to do so many different things, but also many of the same things. You know how to you would probably know how to paint or draw or represent this subject in like 20 different ways if I had to ask you.
Yeah, well, I think it basically comes down to understanding the basic principles of light, of value, of color, dimensionality, perspective, all those things. And if you understand those, you can pick and choose. What do I want to use, and how do I want to combine those? You could use only red and green and do the painting with that, and use really compressed values, and you can still do this painting. And so that's what I like. It's really like a toolbox, and you can just pick out which tool you're going to use and create your own version. Am I going to use distortion or keep the proportion as they are? Am I going to increase the contrast or make it lesser contrast? All those things, that's up to you as an artist. And I think well, obviously you can do it as an exercise, but as you try to communicate with your art, I think what you're trying to say, it will inform which of these choices you will make to tell your story.
Brilliant. And just to let everybody know, there's about half an hour left for you to finish up your paintings. This was very difficult. I was saying off camera earlier that this was what I felt was the most difficult subject that we tackled so far. Yeah. What was your... Oh, also, I want to mention the whole entire thing about, like... I forget what you were saying exactly, Wouter, but then it came to my head, like, oh, I did this painting over the weekend where I'm only using a default brush. And I'm going to make this video. I'm going to put it on Friday, because what is one of the most annoying questions that most artists get? What kind of brush are you using? As if that makes the biggest difference, right?
Yes.
So I kind of like, I got one of those questions again, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to make a freaking video. I'm not going to use any blend modes, any adjustment layers, nothing except for a hard-edged default brush only. I'm going to do a full freaking painting with it. And so that's what I did.
Nice.
I'm going to put that out on Friday. For
Cool.
all of us that are kind of like sick of that question.
I actually did a few of those. They're on my Instagram.
Oh, amazing.
A couple of portraits using only the round brush, full opacity. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's nice because it helps you really make clear decisions in color and value. But also, I did one of a man with a beard, and suddenly you have to, find ways to create that texture.
Yep.
And that's really, really cool because you can, draw the shapes, but you can also use the negative shapes and carve out the shapes and create textures by scribbling, or you get really creative with such limited means.
Hey, also, I want to mention anybody that's, because we were saying that this is, or I was saying this is the hardest subject that I had to tackle. If you feel like that as well, if you feel like your stuff is failing, keep going, because that's the real test here. I know people are struggling, because I was struggling big time, but just keep going through the 90 minutes. That's the main thing. Put in that effort.
I remember, I guess to go back to the whole brush topic, I remember when I first started digital painting, is like there's like so many options of all these brushes, and then I saw all these artists doing these like amazing work with like these simple brush strokes. And this was when I was a student, so I was like, I would download all these brushes and try them out, and then try to achieve the same look, but not really understand what was going on, because these are like brushes are essentially like shortcuts, or like tools that can achieve certain things very quickly rather than using a round brush. So personally, I'm not against like brushes, but I see the importance of just focusing on the hard brush and like one singular like simple one, because I guess Bobby, when you started teaching me how to paint, like you would just teach me using the hard round brush, and I was so confused. I'm like, how do you make like all these amazing painting with all these different like fur textures and like hard textures and all that? And then once you showed me like, okay, to achieve this you have to put this down and then add the light, because then this part catches some light, but then this one hides under this. And just understanding how that works, it made my understand like I understood things a lot more. And then once I went back to the texture brushes, it's like, oh, this is where I can add it so that it seems like it gives that illusion of light. And it just like kind of clicked with me. So I guess this is more for people who are beginning to use digital painting, the medium, to maybe like step back a bit and kind of focus on that fundamental.
I'd say even more than just beginning, like intermediate. Yeah, check yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I use custom brushes. I love them. It's just I don't want people to get influenced the wrong way. So I do that default brush kind of rant, or do those default brush exercises. But there's a lot of power in custom brushes, as long as you know how to use them. Otherwise, you are masking your weaknesses, but you're masking them in a way where it's kind of like children trying to hide from their parents. Like, you're hiding behind that plant. I could see it. I could see it.
Yeah. I think for this study, I only used the round brush as well, like the standard one.
Yeah, me too. Well, Wouter doesn't have the pro plan, doesn't have the custom brushes in Magma, so I think we both were like, okay, we're gonna just use the same brush as Wouter.
And Wouter crushed us.
It was awesome. It was really awesome.
Yeah. It's really cool to see like what we can just do with one simple brush, and just adjusting the few settings.
Another thing I want to kind of bring up was like when Wouter was saying, when you use the default brush, it's like you're making very clear statements. And that's also why you can't hide. You can't hide nearly as much with a default brush than with a fancy custom brush. Because your thoughts are very clear with a default brush. Why did you do that? I don't understand, Or like yours, like some abstract stuff, and turns out like this, and it's like, yep, okay, yeah, he totally understood that. He totally understood that.
You wanna go to
another question?
Yeah, it looks like it's piling up a bit.
Sure. You want to pick one question? Do you want to pick one that kind of hits you?
So CJ Rusotos asks, how do you organize the list of things you struggle with, and how do you prioritize? Is there a logical order you'd go to, or would you go for general to specific?
Hmm. First thing is probably, I don't know, start off with the goal. What
Yeah,
is it that you
exactly.
really want to do?
Yeah.
Then what
Because
would you guys
once
do?
you hit, yeah, once you like kind of narrow in on a goal, it's like easier to work on that. And then even though other things might not be working, I mean, this is kind of like what we were talking about earlier, that Water mentioned. But once you hit that goal, then it's like you can take that and then go to another goal for your next study, for example, and then focus on that. And that kind of like um, organizes like what you want to work on and prioritize.
Yeah, and maybe if you really are starting out, completely from the very beginning, then in that case, just drawing fundamentals, maybe the way to start, and from there on you can discover what it is that you like and what your goal is. But in general, I just agree with what you're saying, Masay.
Awesome. Um, yeah, one of the first things, it's like when you're talking with people at events or whatever, talk about portfolios, talk about advice, things like that, the very first question I do ask people is like, okay, so what is your goal? It's like, how would you do things in whatever order and this and that? Well, what is it that you're trying to achieve? You got to start there. And the number one incorrect answer is, oh, I want to paint stuff that will inspire people, or I want to it doesn't matter, I will mop floors, I will do whatever. Or yeah, I was thinking maybe like either storyboard, animation, character design, layout design, production design, or something like that, where it's like just all over the place. Like we
Yeah.
are going hunting, people. We are going hunting for skills. So what kind of skills are you hunting for? That will
Yeah.
determine what kind of bait you're gonna bring, what kind of equipment, like that kind of thing, right? And then everything is geared towards accomplishing that goal or achieving, getting
Yes.
that skill. All right. Well, why don't we go to another question there? That was a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody want to join in on Discord? Does anybody have a question there?
Hi, Bobby.
Hey.
How are you? It's Pablo.
Hey, Paulo.
Hi.
Me again. I just want to ask, I'm really struggling with perspective. How do you can guide me to understand? I mean, how can I study perspective? I don't really understand it very well.
The most hardcore perspective teacher I know is Scott Robertson.
Mm-hmm.
He's like human
He
Maya.
he used to have a course on Schoolism, right?
He does. And then he put all of his videos into one of his books. So that's why his course isn't on Schoolism anymore. I believe it's just called How to Draw.
How to draw.
Yeah, Scott Robertson.
Yeah, that's my favorite book. That's actually how I learned perspective
Oh, no way.
when I first
Okay.
took art seriously.
Did you use the phone? Because his book, you can kind of CR code certain areas or something, and then stuff pops up, videos pop up.
I
Oh,
already
no,
have
I
it.
didn't know
Or QR code, sorry, QR code.
Oh, cool.
that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's cool.
a lot of the stuff that he taught in his Schoolism class is actually in the book now in video form too.
Okay.
Oh, I
Yeah.
did
Oh, that's
not know.
cool. Another great book on perspective is by Marcos Mateo Mestre.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's 2 volumes, I think, and it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you remember the name?
It's called Frame Perspective.
Yeah, frame perspective.
Yeah.
Or framed ink.
Yeah, that's another book of his, but that's
Yeah.
not the one on
Oh,
screen.
okay. That must be the second
Hey,
one.
Bobby, sorry to interrupt.
Hey.
I wanted to say you have now the screen on of Discord. I just saw it
Oh
right
my
now.
gosh, I'm so sorry.
No
Should we
worries.
rewind a bit? Or are we okay?
Well, I'll bring people through it. So this is what happened in the last couple minutes. It's
I
pretty.
also wanted
I
to
guess
add in Noah's screen, Maveline is working on this, and it looks so awesome.
I did. I saw.
Yeah.
I showed it on screen a little bit, and then I just forgot to take them off.
Oh, no
My
worries.
apologies. Yeah, way to go, everybody in Discord. There are so many people painting and drawing, as well as people sharing. But there's even more people just painting and drawing. So feel free to join us on the Lightbox Expo Discord channel. We're gonna be doing this constantly. It's every Mondays and Thursdays. So come join us. All right, why don't we go to, does anybody have a question on Discord, or we can move
Can I
on?
ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
For younger people, like maybe middle school or grade school, how can I talk to them so that to appreciate the work they do and the progress they're making when learning art skills?
I think what worked for me was just easier kind of successes, like having easier assignments, things like that, so that they could really feel some improvement and go, wow, that was cool. Art's cool.
Good
Thank
one.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. I remember taking Chinese watercolor painting classes for a bunch of years, right? I believe when I was, I guess, beginning high school or something like that. Anyways, in the very beginning, the teacher would mix the paints for us, right? He would mix the paints for us, and I also have the line drawing. And I just need to finish a bit more of the line drawing,
Okay.
and then I just put in the paint, and I'm done. And then, you bring it home to the parents. Parents are like, oh, you're so good, you're so good. And then I'm like, oh, that wasn't that bad. And I want to go back, right? And it gets harder and harder. And soon the training wheels get taken off, and you got to draw it. You got to,
Yeah.
mix the colors. That was a nice way.
It's kind of like what we were talking about. You want like focus on your goal, and that one was like, it narrows down to just filling in the lines.
Yeah.
So you got to focus on that rather than
Yeah.
like, drawing out the image.
Yes. Exactly.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I'm working on this course right now where it's like the very first, how you start off is actually more towards the end. So I would give you a painting that's maybe 80% finished as the very first assignment, and then you're going to take that to the end. And then the next time it would be like 70% finished, 60% finished. And then every time you're going over top of a relatively sound sketch, a sound, base, right? So the idea of like, nobody really likes tracing that much, but this kind of forces you to kind of trace because you're going over top of something, and then you're getting used to good foundation, good structure, that kind of thing. So as you get further and further through the course, you have to do many of those things yourself, but you know what that feels like to do good structure.
Cool.
We'll see how that works.
Like that.
I'm still experimenting. Yeah.
Good question, though.
Yeah, any other questions on Discord? All right, well, this is shaping up to be really, really awesome. There's about 10 minutes left for this painting here. Why don't we go to a couple more questions on Slido? So this one's from Chloe. How do you stylize references? I want to do character design, but I have a hard time changing shapes and making it simple. Wouter, this one's, I think, up your alley, right?
There's a whole course on it.
Well, I'll set you up. Why don't you, can you tell everybody a little bit about like what are the learning outcomes from your expressive characters course?
What does it mean?
What do people learn in that? What are the lessons that you teach?
Well, in that course, well, it's called expressive character, so it focuses really on bringing life to your characters. So thinking of movement, weight, expressions, really the expressiveness of the characters. Um, there are also parts where we work from reference. Actually, the first lesson is about that, where you look at a photo and try to simplify it into shapes. And it doesn't have to be following anatomy. It has to follow design. So you can imagine if someone wears a cape and it's wrapped around him, the design of that person could be almost like a triangle with a head on top. And so that is a quality that you can develop as an artist. And I think is a very important quality because besides trying to draw accurately what you see, you also want to be able to design. And there's a difference between drawing and design. You can render and draw something beautifully, but to design it is really to think about shapes and composition. So well, it's difficult to really completely cover the whole subject here, but I think that the example of that triangle is one way of looking at things. And next, you can start to think, how am I going to change that triangle? Am I going to add curves to the side, or am I going to squash it or stretch it, or make it rounder? You can play with shapes in a very you can do so many things with shapes to say something about the character, but also to express the movement. But it's really important not to get distracted by all the details you see in the reference. So that's why drawing from life is really important. It doesn't even matter if it's landscape or a figure drawing. What you need to learn there is to look at the design in terms of shapes. I think I forgot the name, Bobby. You have a course on landscape painting on Schoolism. You know the name of?
Like there's Nathan Fowkes, watercolor and gouache landscape painting, and then there's also John Burton. He does.
That's him.
Yes,
That's him. He has this exercise where you paint only the darkest areas of the painting, but you basically combine all those parts of the painting that have the same dark value, that whole area. And so instead of painting all the details you see in there, you blend all those shapes together and you look at the design of the painting in terms of shapes. And it's the same process basically as looking at a figure and thinking, is that head mostly square or mostly rounded? It's the same process as looking at, when you try to do a caricature, you're looking at a face which has all the details, but you have to be able to look at it in terms of shapes. And I think you can compare it to a low res image. If you see only the pixels, then you can still see what it is, but you lose a lot of information. It's not exactly the same, but because you're not turning it into pixels, but you're turning it into geometrical shapes. If I look at that face, what if I would have to draw a very simple shape, what would that shape be? And that could be a way to look at your references in order to simplify them for your characters.
Something that I learned when I was sketching nonstop every week on the subway for like 5 years straight, every Sunday, I believe it was. You're drawing people on the subway, or I'm drawing people on the subway. I don't want to have them catch me staring at them, right? So I just glance and I look at my page, or I just glance and not even stop for a second because they're facing me or something, and just keep looking, right? And then go back to my page. When I went back to my page, after doing this consistently, what I would find myself doing is picture a shape there, visualize a simplified shape there, right? And go, does it match? Does it feel like that character? If not, I slide it over pretty much and I create another shape in my mind, right? Or once I get that shape down, I put in those eyes. Before I put in those eyes, I'm picturing the eyes on that shape and moving them up and down, apart, together, to find the essence of that character, what feels like them the most. Is this what goes on in your head as well, Wouter?
Well, absolutely. I did the same thing drawing my son as he was doing capoeira at the time, and then they're running around dancing and doing stuff, so they don't even stand still for 1 second. And you take this mental picture, and it's too much information to capture at once. So you have to simplify it into a simple shape. And if you get that angle right, if you get that curve right, or the gesture can also be in terms of a shape that has a certain feeling of movement to it. And once that is right, you can basically finish the drawing, because that the essence of that, that the low res image is correct. And then you only have to look once in a while if someone does a pose like that again, if you want to know exactly what happens with the folds under the arms or things like that. Those are details, but they are on top of a construction that you started out with in a very simple way that already worked.
What about you, Masay? I know you got thoughts on this.
No, I was just thinking like, oh, I see. And then as I'm looking at Wouter's background, I'm like, oh, maybe that's how like Wouter approached his character designs. Sorry, I was just like thinking like how, like trying to picture how Wouter would be drawing it, like explaining all that. So exactly what you guys, what both of you guys said, simplifying it, distilling it down into like overall shapes, because it's definitely easy to get into the whole detail and trying to get like all the folds and stitches and all that, but in the end it essentially is the whole, like the silhouette, the overall shape, and that feel that it has.
Now I'll get a little bit more specific here, like oh shoot, I also want to mention that we have like maybe a minute left, 2 minutes left. So actually, never mind. I just forgot what I was going to say. I do want to say that Thursday, though, is the next artist workout challenge. This one is with Bright Aqua from Ghana, and we're going to be painting David Attenborough. That'll be fun. I love painting old people. They have such a character in the face. I think we mentioned that before, or I mentioned that. All right. That was a really great question,
There's
Chloe.
so much history on those wrinkles.
Isn't there?
Yeah.
Can I asking questions?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So, like, for example, right, how do you know that, like, your art is kind of like, Honor, because my English kind of a little bit broken, so it might take time to.
It's okay.
Okay, so for example, right, because I've been as an artist for kind of like working in an industry almost like 6 to 7 years, but I kind of like struggling on like enjoying like the style that I'm working on. Like sometimes when you look at like the League of Legends, right? Like all those splash are very cool, and then you might try to achieve like all of this. And maybe like for the next few weeks, you might see some cool artists that they are working on this awesome art, and you might go and have a try on it as well. Sometimes you will feel that like kind of lost. Like
I think I could stop you right there. I feel like we're all kind of like nodding our heads inside. We've all experienced that before. For me, I'm not one to stick around on something that I'm not enjoying. And that's something that I also have expressed to Miss A many times. Like, yeah, so what? They want us to work on something. Do you want to work on it though? do you really? You know, like I'll be like that, even though it's probably in the studio's best interest to just keep taking on whatever projects. We don't, you know. But then sometimes you could learn to love something, you know, like an ugly dog. You know, like eventually you're gonna look at the dog and be like, I love that thing. It's so ugly, but not anymore. Um, yeah, but sometimes you want to move on. To move on, though, look at your portfolio. Is it full of the stuff that you don't want to do? Because if so, start doing that splash art or whatever that you do want to do. And you think Riot Games splash art is cool, then start doing a bunch of, you know, portfolio pieces like that, and try to get it as close to that level as possible before jumping off your very stable job there.
I think for me, like especially being on Instagram, like you follow a bunch of artists and you love the reason why you follow them is because you really like what they do. But everyone's in different industry and has different styles. Like I follow people who do like magic cards, and then another side is like they do children's illustration book, and I love both of them. So it's really easy to kind of like want to do everything. But what made it easy for me was I have a little note in my phone listing down the artists that I admire and I want to do something that's very similar like them, so that like that's my goal. Like this is what I want in my art. So that's kind of like a good reminder for me to just like kind of like what do you call it? Like a goal, I guess, to put in simple words.
Yeah, recently I heard Drew Struzan, the movie poster artist. He said that he doesn't look at any art from other people. He just focuses on what he wants to do. And I thought I heard other artists say a similar thing. And reason for that is they want to find their own voice and not, you know, be distracted by what other people's doing. And I don't know if I entirely agree, because I get inspired by other people as well. And it you know, as long as I'm inspired, I think that's a good thing to look at their work. When it starts to feel like you are competing, or when you feel intimidated, then it might be a good thing to walk away from that and to just focus on your own drawings, your own process, because eventually that's who you are and what you have to offer. And also, if you focus on what you love to do, then you know that can also be, you know, inspired by other artists that you love. But if you combine all the references of what you love, you know, it can even be other stuff than art. You know, if you just like the shape of the trees when you go take out a walk in the forest, you know, and those things you use them in your art, you know, that will become something that defines you as an artist, that is unique, because it's not just technique, it's also your personality that you have to offer, and that makes you a unique artist.
Honestly, I love everything that you say generally, Wouter. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. Yeah, and
Thank you.
If these 90-minute workouts are not enough for you, which they shouldn't really be, I highly recommend Wouter's courses on schoolism.com. Expressive Characters with Wouter Tulp, learning about character design and really putting in that energy, putting in that life into characters, which is so elusive for so many. And then the other is the workout that I've been obsessing over and I've been telling you guys about and doing them with you. And this is pretty much like a hybrid of, you know, exercise day 20 on Wouter's thing, where every day you do an exercise. It's so awesome because you just play the video, you do the exercise, when he's done, you're done, and you go on with the rest of your day working on that job with that style that you hate, you know, but you're motivated now because you gave yourself something to feed your artistic soul, your love of art. And maybe that would be kind of like the secret sauce to get you through that day, that person that was asking that. Now, Huge thanks to the audience, to Discord, to the incredible Discord team, Yen, Patricia, Noah, Kofi, whoever else I missed. I'm sorry, but thank you to everybody there, and my wonderful assistant Jamie in Facebook and in YouTube. Thank you so much. And biggest shouts out go to the wonderful, the amazing Masei Seki and Wouter Tulp.
Thank you.
You guys. And catch you guys next time, right? Thursday. Let's keep it going. It's all about consistency. All right.